So welcome everyone to AWE Nite SF, our August event, where we're focusing on AR and gaming. So I'm Mike Boland, I'm Chief Analyst of Artillery Intelligence, and I'll be your MC for the evening. Instead, we're gonna give a quick kind of roundup of 3 things that have happened in the last week, 2 of which actually happened in the last 24 hours. So the first one, which you may have seen, is Spark AR, Facebook Spark AR, now available on Instagram, or as a developer, you can now develop for Spark AR and have Instagram join the distribution points, which was previously other Facebook properties like Newsfeed and Messenger and Portal, I believe. Now Instagram joins that list, and that was previously in closed beta. As of today, they've opened it up. And it's interesting because Instagram and its very camera-forward audience, I think, should provide fertile ground for AR and for Spark AR developers. So we're going to be continuing to watch that closely. The second one, which you probably saw today, Snap has announced the design and availability for the 3rd iteration of Spectacles. The difference being this one now has a second camera, 4 microphone inputs. So essentially users can take stereoscopic video and volumetric sound, and that opens the door for a lot of subsequent additions and editing with AR and 3D content in a more of an asynchronous manner. So it's not quite pure AR per se, but I think it's a step in that direction that's going to be pretty important. So we'll continue to watch that. They're going to be available, I believe, for $380 in November. Which is kind of a price hike from the first 2 models, but that makes sense because of the additional kind of optics and hardware that are going to be in these models. So we'll be watching that closely. The third item, which you may have seen late last week, Google's Live View, which is the AR-oriented 3D walking directions in urban areas, which was previously available on a limited basis, is now available to ARKit, ARCore, enabled devices in areas where Street View is operating. And we're really excited to see this roll out. It hasn't hit my phone yet, but I've been saying for a long time that the killer apps in AR are going to be these true utilities that represent what I like to call all-day use cases. We love fun and games and a lot of the things we're going to be talking about today. But I think that the frequency and utility of apps like this, I think, are going to really bring AR to a much larger audience.
All right. So, hey, my name is Justin Quimby. I'm a senior product manager at Google, and I've been working on bringing AR to Google Maps for the past year and a half. And today I wanted to give you some insights into what we've learned since bringing AR to Google Maps, starting with our Pixel preview actually back in May this past year. And so in February, we started talking a bit about our approach to localization and how do you figure out where you are in the world. There's an AI blog that we published in February, and we'll post links to these afterwards in the meetup. And then at Google I/O, we gave a great talk talking about a bunch of the UX lessons we learned in the process of building out these prototypes. Highly recommend taking a look at it. We made a lot of mistakes, so you don't have to. So please take a look. Some great lessons learned there. But one of the interesting things about AR is it's really easy to imagine how to use visual feature tracking and motion tracking to deliver cool experiences. Visual-based motion tracking has been around since the Apollo era. And the Apollo program actually used some of the same technologies that we use today. The trick here is it's much harder to execute this stuff and deliver it at scale. And when we looked around for what could we use these technologies for, a lot of times in urban settings, compass and GPS just don't cut it. And it leads to results that look like this. Right? And the reason why is that GPS signals in urban canyons bounce around. And even a 10 or 20 meter bounce for that signal can lead to your little blue dot wandering all over the place. And this is on top of all the electromagnetic fields that you experience in urban environments. And sometimes folks criticize AR as being this hammer that's looking for the nail. To solve what is the problem to solve, and it's a valid point. And we saw an opportunity within Maps to really deliver address one of these longest standing user problems. You come out of the subway, you come out of a building, and you don't know which way to go, right? And so we saw that we could deliver a lot of value to users by delivering assistance when they're getting on-foot directions. And yes, you can use AR in driving situations, but when you're in a car and the car is moving, that's actually going to give you a pretty good signal to figure out where you are in GPS. And on top of that, it's not a good idea to distract drivers. So putting an awesome AR overlay over the world when you're driving could potentially be dangerous. And then on the other side, like if you think about indoor spaces, airports, malls, et cetera, these places tend to be fairly well signed. And so they don't suffer from the same fundamental problem if you come out and you just have no guidance as to which way to go. So we chose to tackle this hard problem of solving outdoor localization in Google Maps at global scale. And this is all based on this foundational technology of global localization. And global localization is basically comprised of 4 parts: our visual positioning service, combined with motion tracking from AR Core, plus our Street View imagery, and machine learning. Now, an important thing here is that we've been working on this for over 3 years. The core of the visual positioning service actually was born out of Tango, which you might remember from a few years ago. And Live View and bringing it to beta for users and this beginning the rollout last week is an important milestone for us on this journey. I mean, we did produce over 120 UI prototypes. Some of that team is sitting over here. You can talk to them about the scars they bear from that process. But then we went through this exhaustive process of team fooding, dog fooding internally, testing it with some of our local guides in Google Maps, testing it with Pixel users as a preview. And now we're happy about this broader rollout for beta. So let's talk about, I was trying to figure out a good word that started with P for improvements. I couldn't, so it was close. So okay, let's talk about 3 areas: coverage, quality, and latency. Let's talk coverage. When you pull out your phone and you open Google Maps, it should work. Doesn't matter where you are, it should work. And so we had the same bar for any sort of AR experience inside of Google Maps. And so today, everywhere we have Street View imagery, Live View works. And it's over 80 countries. And we're really happy about that. This is actually a map of live sessions from preview users of Live View. I did add a little rand function to the colors, so I wouldn't try to exact too much information from that. But and then, because coverage, having this kind of coverage powers your localization technology. So we have gone from being able to process the tens of billions of photos we have from Street View in 25 days down to under 6. So our localization iteration cycle is less than a week at this point. And then on top of that, we have our eval pipelines for our machine learning models and other algorithmic improvements that run over tens of millions of images on a daily basis. So for us, we're really interested in this idea of rapid iteration and rapid evolution of both our machine learned models and all of our other systems. And one of the nice things here is that we're building on top of the foundation of 10 plus years of Street View work within Google Maps. And as Street View gets better and we take more and more images, so too does our localization model get better. And then let's talk a little bit about quality. So since the start of our Pixel preview in May, we've increased our localization rate by over 27%. Our visual positioning service has 95% of our localization results returning within 3 meters of ground truth. And we've improved the overall percentage of times we are able to provide a localization result by over 20 absolute percentage points. Yep, yeah. All right, so latency matters a lot. Consumers have a lot of choices. Think about how many apps you have on your phone and how long you give a new one before you decide to never open it again. So latency matters, and when we're introducing a new feature in Google Maps, latency also matters. And here, we're happy that we can provide global localization in under a second over 95% of the time. And this is, for us, a really important thing, because if we are going to get people into the habit of finding this capability useful, it has to be fast. And part of the reason that we're now in beta in our rollout for Live View is because we were able to pass this kind of threshold. And we've done all sorts of other improvements, like we've done 11% reduction to our end latency. We've got a 2.5x increase in our cold cache responses and a 3x response in speed up in our warm cache responses. But ultimately, it comes back to this number. Can you get a response in less than a second? And we're happy we can do that today. And this is just the first step in a very long journey for us. We've been working on this for over 3 years. We'll be working on it for at least another 3 years. And there's a lot of stuff that we're really excited about for live view as we continue the rollout. And if you need to give me some money so you can get into the beta, let me know. No, I couldn't do that, of course not. But we've been, I think a key point here is that while it is a beta and we're starting to roll it out, we want your feedback. We need that kind of feedback from users. So if you have comments, let us know. And we're really excited about some of the other stuff that we're going to be announcing later this year. So thanks so much for taking the time. And I'm not going to do questions here, but afterward, come find me.
Thank you, Justin. That was great. So actually, we're going to now have our first speaker who is joining us from Western Massachusetts. We are going to attempt to do this technically complicated kind of patching him in situation. There he is. Mike, can you hear me? Wave if you can hear me. And actually, we can say something. Hopefully, we can hear you.
Hello.
All right, it works. Okay, so Mike, everyone can hear you. You can see them. They can see you. So take it away. And actually, first, if you could all join me in welcoming Mike Levine from Happy Giant.
Okay, I'm going to try to present my screen here.
Yep, we can see your screen. You want to go into presentation mode. There you go.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea of what we can see, we see picture-in-picture with you, and most of the screen is your slides.
Cool. Well, nice to see everyone, even though I can't see you now. But thanks for inviting me, Mike, and AWE, and everyone else you mentioned. It's nice to be in San Francisco and not fly there, so thank you. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk about a little bit about our history in AR and games, and we actually, like, just over the course of the last week announced like 4 big projects we've been working on over the last year or so that are all games or related to games and toys. So I thought this would be a good time just to go over them and just talk really briefly about them. So yeah, we've been doing AR now for, I think, about 6 years, so makes this presentation a little bit longer. But you know, my background specifically was working at LucasArts out there, where I lived in the Bay Area, and then our company is made up of other gaming and toy veterans, visual effects people, and you know, we really focus almost primarily on mobile and web AR and some headset AR a little bit too. So our journey in AR really started about that time frame I mentioned when we partnered up with Phil Tippett's studio out there. I used to work at LucasArts and did a lot of work with ILM, so I know people there, and we just started playing around, and the end result of that was this game Hologrid Monster Battle, and it came out before AR Kit, if we remember that time existed. And it really became a vehicle for us to learn about AR on all the different platforms. First, it was a physical base game with cards, as you can see here. And then we brought it to Tango, HoloLens, really every AR platform was available. Then AR Kit came out and went on to become one of the first AR games of the day with Apple and get lots of other great press and accolades. After that, well, here's a little video of it. I don't know if you guys can hear any sound if I play it. So yeah, we also did, you know, photogrammetry, or sort of a primitive form of volumetric capture with all of these creatures that you see here. These are all real physical maquettes that Phil Tippett made. And Phil Tippett, if you don't know who he is, he's Academy Award winner, but he also, among other things, created the holo chess scene in Star Wars. So this game was very much meant to sort of have that feel and vibe to it. And we learned, you know, a ton by doing this and on the different platforms, what works, what doesn't work. et cetera, and what might work in the future as well. After that, we released a game called Quasar Arena, which didn't get nearly as much attention, but still pretty groundbreaking. It's in the iOS App Store. Encourage you to check it out. Sometimes it's hard enough to get people to download an app. For this, you need 2 people because it's a multiplayer game, but it's pretty much a laser tag-like experience, as you can see here, where you have shields and shooting. It's for 2 players. We worked with another company that's out there now, Gedo Maps, that helped us with the syncing to get down the syncing of players to get into the match to about 1/10 of the time that Apple and Google's takes. So that was like a huge leap for this game, and encourage people to check it out. We're actually in a lot of discussions about sort of using this as a template, especially with things like 5G and other things coming. AR multiplayer is going to become a lot easier and more exciting. It was also announced, which I guess I can say, that we're also part of the Niantic contest that's going on right now. And for that, this was extremely helpful, and we're continuing to explore what AR multiplayer means and can do, and very excited about it. So last year, we also did a game, even though it says 2019, for AWE, which I'll talk about again in a little bit. This game won an award at CES as a Cappy Award for Best Mixed Reality Toy of the Year. And it did a few things, kind of unique. As you'll see with the theme, with a lot of the projects we're doing, we work very closely with a lot of the toy companies. And it's really, the toy companies are pretty enamored with AR at the moment because it's a very powerful thing to, extend the play cycle, but also be able to bring toys to life in kids' rooms or environments or wherever they are. And so really we've been doing this kind of physical digital connection, I call it, for 10 years. We worked with Hasbro and Little's Head Shop, and kids were entering codes in. Now we're able to do that with AR and image and matchmaking. So for this game, kids would battle with their creatures, and we used something called full body AR, so kids could move around and their creatures actually react to how they move, whether they're dodging, jumping, ducking, etc. So it's a pretty fun, active experience, get kids moving instead of sitting on the couch, etc. The other thing we did unique with this game is use 3D model object recognition. It was one of the first, if not the first, toys to do this. So, evolving sort of from the past of typing in a code, this is actually looking at the physical 3D toy and using that as a marker. And we basically use this as a mechanism to let kids scan in their toys and yes, they fart. If you caught that. And that would allow them to sort of be unlocked in the game. And then we also introduced daily and weekly rewards if they would scan them on a regular basis to sort of keep that connection with the toy as well. I just thought I'd mention also, we were one of the first developers to work with Bose, who has these AR frames. If you haven't heard about them, I encourage you to check them out. They're really cool. I was kind of a skeptic at the beginning. We created a game for them that hopefully will be coming out soon, called Sonic Samurai. So Bose frames are audio AR only. There's no visual component. So in this game, you basically use your ears. It's called Sonic Samurai, and you hear enemies coming at you with sort of 360 spatial audio all around you. You have to turn to face them, and then you use your phone as your sword to either strike at them, block, duck, etc. So kind of like Luke Skywalker with the helmet on, and it's pretty fun and a different type of experience. So over this time, we've built up a lot of tools and things that we use to create AR games, and we didn't really get into it for this talk because we don't have enough time, but we've also branched out over the last 6-9 months and been working with agencies on kind of taking our AR skills and using them for brands in sort of not necessarily full-blown gaming mechanics as well, but we're always doing R&D. We're very in touch with the startup community and the big companies, and are always trying to use the latest tech to see where we can push it, what we can do that's new. But at the same time, especially when working with toy companies, keeping in mind lower lowest common devices that we have to support as well is always a balancing act. This just talks about some of the sort of buckets we see AR fitting into, at least in terms of brands and how we interact with them, with games, try-on, product placement, GPS AR, geolocation, and that Google stuff sounds amazing. Can't wait to try it. Selfies, and we get a lot of interest in doing AR portals, and if people have seen those, but they really haven't been used that much yet by brands. And I thought it was also important to mention, everything we do, we put analytics behind, and analytics for AR can be different on some level, tracking camera time, what people are looking at. So we've tried to keep up with sort of the consumer intelligence behind all this, whether it's a game or sponsor-driven activation. Okay, now talk about the new stuff. So these are all, there are links on our Twitter feed, by the way, and our website about most of these. So this was just announced last week, a project we did with Spin Master called Dragamon. So people may have heard of Hatchlings from a couple of years ago, was Toy of the Year. This is kind of their boy version to that. It's a big launch for them. We created over 72 dragons, and this game comes with little eggs that kids smash open to get their dragons, but it also comes with a full-blown card battle game as well. And so we really recreated that game in a digital format, brought it to life where kids can scan their cards into the game, as you see on the left, play in these AR battles. They can be large scale, or they can shrink them down and play them on your tabletop, as you see here. And they're playing against other people's friends' accounts, et cetera, in asynchronous real-time battles, basically. So here's a little clip from Dragamons. Whoops. What did I do? Hold on. Sorry about that. I think you guys missed that. Try that once more. And what you can see in there, if you look closely, is as we've learned over the years, kind of with AR, is if you look at HoloGrid, it was more sort of the entire experience, and now we've learned sort of to pick and choose our battles and always have parts to the games that kids can play in the backseat of their cars, and sort of weave it in more to the whole experience. So moving right along, another project that just got announced that we did for Spin Master is a companion app to their very popular Headbands game. This is one of, if not their most popular board games, similar to the Ellen game, where people put these cards on their head and you have to guess what they are. So we created this kind of Snapchat-like experience where we brought to life 70 of these cards, and as people play the game, they can hold their phone up, scan in the cards, and the person sort of turns into what the card is that you're trying to guess. So it's just a couple funny pictures of me doing a few of them here. I'm not going to make you look at all 70. And there, all these have sound effects. They're triggered by certain gestures, as you can see I'm doing here. Let's see, I think there was a funny one right about, a little more, here we go. This one, the octopus coming down. So this was just kind of a fun add-on, and we're also a Snapchat partner, so this was fun for us to kind of just try these skills in a more of a game-like setting. So another app that just came out that we did for Jazzwares is called Nanables, and this is really a fun, exciting new product for girls. These tiny little houses, I don't know if you guys can see them here, I have them, but this game actually has a AR component to it, but it also has a non-AR component. It's kind of like a Animal Crossing type experience with all these different worlds, but these houses that the kids buy basically are unlocked using, again, 3D model object recognition. So here's a video of that, just kind of showing off what that is like. And this part is a sort of very magical experience, and girls are seeming to love it. And the houses kind of come to life as you scan them in. It's very quick and accurate. And then after you scan them, you kind of can go into the app and play with them. And you can see your little nano here that you scan in is waving at you as you bring it into the game. So, and then the last one, this one actually came out before all these, but this was in the first of these. This was the sort of update that we did, new app for AWE called Mad Lab Minis. And these little things came in vials, which is sort of the trend in toys, LOL, et cetera. And for these came with QR codes. So kids would scan these in, and sort of the big thing with this app is that it was like a mad scientist lab, and kids can make hybrids with these creatures. And so what we did was we wanted to create this kind of mad scientist lab that kids could have in their houses in AR, get really close to it, experiment, interact, sort of feel like you're a mad scientist, basically. And of course, battle your creatures afterwards. So here's just some video of how that kind of played out as well. So you kids get this lab, you can bring it on the street, as in here, or in your house. Everything we do, we've also learned that, we let people scale it up or down just based on their size, until we have true persistence in computer vision. People want to play these apps in different places and different scenarios, so we try to keep it as flexible as possible. So basically, as you scan in these codes, you get sort of different elements, and then that allows you to mix them together to create different types of creature parts, which give you these unique creatures. Here you see them in your sort of fly-like containers. And you collect this elixir as you battle in the game, which you need to make your different hybrids. Your creature comes to life. And what else what would you want out of life than that? So, yeah, really, we've been working in AR for a number of years. We're, looking at product visualization, a lot of face AR stuff these days. We're excited about computer vision, AR cloud, persistence, semantic understanding. Those are a lot of the things we're looking into now as the future of this, and kind of excited to see where it goes.
Okay, so next we have Nicole Lazzaro, who is the president of XEODesign and a rock star when it comes to UX design and really like a thought leader in that space. So we're happy to have her. So why don't you come on up, Nicole?
All right, thank you very much for coming. Nicole Lazzaro, for those of you I haven't met. And I'm the president and founder of XEODesign and XEOPlay. For years, I've been a thought leader in the game industry on emotion in games. So how games affect us emotionally and how we can create more compelling and more engaging experiences inside and outside of games. We've used the 4 keys to fun, which is my model. I measured emotion on people's faces while they played, and it's baked into the AI for The Sims. So one of the reasons you feel so much when you play The Sims, if you play The Sims. We've taken it to Myst, and then I've also designed a lot of UX. So for example, iFluence, which was a hands-free AI tracking only AI UI that Google bought a couple years ago. And we've also worked on Star Wars and Matrix, lots of very popular game franchises. Here are some of our XR clients. So we're a consulting company, so we consult in AR, XR, also in games. And I've also been around working, got a chance to work with Samantha Bee on her election game and during the midterms. And I've been on, done some work with the White House, as well as 4 Keys has inspired the IBM Watson's sentiment analysis. In the XR space, we've got a couple games still in development, so we're going to see a couple of them. Follow the White Rabbit, which how many people have played? Most of you should have played Follow the White Rabbit. Yeah, okay. No, okay, all right. So we've got a demo of that going around. We're going to talk today a little bit more about AR, and so Unscramble the Oracle. We were also part of the Bose AR Jam as well as, Siciliana and Katie down there, and Happy Giant. So we're going to talk about that. And most importantly, though, we're going to talk about some principles. So we're going to look at these 5 design principles for designing AR in AR games. I gave a talk, if you like these, I gave a talk at AWE, which has got more in it. So have a look there if you like the presentation tonight. So the first thing I want to talk about is like, how do we, with AR, it's awesome that we can put all this information on ourselves, when we're in our AR spaces. But how do we avoid this hyperreality nightmare, as you probably are very familiar with? Well, the first one is really all about white space. So just because you can put a lot of stuff in front of the user doesn't mean that you should, because you have to remember, you don't have their full attention. So for stuff like the Bose AR glasses here, we also have a Magic Leap that we can do some demos on as well. You've got the real world coming in. So you've got to be sure that you've got to leave room for that real world, that context to come in and blend in seamlessly. In the sense of white, we also need to look at a lot of these AR experiences are all additive light, and so it's very hard to get black, as you might know. So when you're designing your spaces, it's the lightness from the 50% gray up is going to give you the most, in terms of your art style and your art assets, that's going to give you the most viewable and viewable range in terms of what people will be able to see. Now, this is Aladdin's, well, I guess that was Pumpkin Smash on the left there, but one of our Game Jam games. And then Dr. Gordbort's from a Magic Leap. And so you can see they actually do have black, in a sense, and they're doing some really lovely tricks. I highly recommend, if you're in the AR space looking at games, take a look at that art style, because they do amazing things where they're actually getting, you would assume that start game is black, but it's actually not. And as I mentioned, this is with Follow the White Rabbit. You need the context to shine through. So this is our early experiment I did. I'm the lead developer on Follow the White Rabbit, where we've got the real world and then the virtual world, and they're just fighting here. It doesn't seamlessly blend in. I need to drop out the room and then maybe just have the picture frame from in the AR display, hanging out there, and not a bunch of the background, because we want it to, you need to have that blending. Otherwise, you might as well just go full VR. This is one of the first, mistakes or experiments that most people try when they switch from VR or traditional games into AR. So secondly, we want to talk about emotion and fun. These are the 4 keys to fun. Look me up online if you want to hear details about it. But essentially what happens is that we found that games that people really like, that really engage with, tend to do 4 things. They're tended to be what we call easy fun. It's the curiosity. It's the hook that pulls you in. So mechanics that were, just gave you curiosity, wonder, and surprise. Other than the next realm, which is we're really weak on a lot of AR and VR games, is the challenge, the mastery, the sense of the goal, the sense of accomplishment, where I can go strategy to finish stuff. And then people fun, social interaction, like we saw with some of the Happy Giant stuff, which is great. There's more fun in people fun than the other 3 combined. And then serious fun. Once I've played, I should feel progression in the world. And so a lot of AR experiences, if you come back to them, there isn't something new. You don't feel like the world changed. And so when you think about like Minecraft in the real world or the Harry Potter in the real world, you really want that world to change. And what we're working on now is an emotion engine, so some AI that we can put behind or embed underneath our AR experiences to create them more emotionally compelling. You can see I gave a talk at the AI Summit at GDC this year for more details on that. But the idea is that the real world, we've got to be able to recognize the real world and respond to the user in some ways, so that we can create a narrative or a series of experiences that create emotion and depth, that don't feel like I'm just hitting a play button and listening to an audio tape. The loss of agency, though, because this is so intense emotionally, we also need to be careful. Like this is an enterprise app where you would learn how to make sandwiches with an AR display, but you can imagine kind of a Clockwork Orange scenario where you have that viewing 7 hours a day, or it might be 24/7 if it's on contacts. So we've got to be sure that we've got, you have to have lots of agency. The third thing we want to do is we want to talk about audio. So we'll do a little demo here in a second from our Unscrambled game. Traditional audio design is usually, you want to be on stage with the Beatles. You want Ringo on your left and George on your right, and you want to be on stage with them. That's a traditional aesthetic for most audio design. But with AR and with VR, we actually want to go, instead of outside in, we want to go from inside out to pull you into the space. Because these are immersive, it's an immersive craft, right? It's an immersive feeling, an immersive experience. So you really want to use the audio to pull you into that illusion. Don't want to put them inside their head. And it'll be a little bit hard to hear in this space particularly because we are in mono. We don't have a stereo feed to the speakers, but I encourage you to try. We'll have some demos. Michael and I will have some demos for you to try out. So this is Fairy Chicken Godmother, which is a silly adventure, choose your own adventure game, all done in AR. And what we do is we help our chicken fairy godmother find her lost hubby and chicks. We decided for AR we really needed very simple player actions in order to pull this off because you can't see anything. It's an audio-only game. And we're using positional audio a lot. So can everyone just cross their fingers for the demo gods here? Because there we have that. There we go. Demo on screen. Okay.
Unscramble the Oracle. Enhanced with Bose Augmented Reality. Brought to you by XEOPlay. What are you doing here? Can't you see that I'm trying to give an intro? Ha! Anyway, tap to begin.
So what we do, it's audio only, and the only gestures are looking around and tapping on the side of your head.
Wow, am I glad you've arrived. I'm your fairy chicken godmother. You may remember me from when I protected you from that hobgoblin when you were only 5. I know it's really dark in here, but I'll be your guide. Face towards the entrance you want and double tap on your glasses. I am the pizza.
So I would hear this positionally in my head, and so as I move around, I've got the pizza door,
I'm the tunnel to the
underground over this way, and then
I am the pizza door. I am the
waterfall path that way. So this is all in AR, just audio AR. And in my head, I can actually hear the different direction that these things are going from. I'm going to choose pizza door. And let's see what we do. Okay. And now we're walking. And so we actually have
good choice.
actually
really
a walking simulator in here. So as I walk, I'm actually registering some steps. And moving through the environment. And so as I move, we get...
You're doing great. Keep on moving. Nothing here that can hurt you. Doing fine. Ah! Something's coming! Watch out! Duck! Ducks!
And so now we're going to have ducks. So ducks come in. And so you have to avoid the ducks as you move.
Took you long enough. Oh, yes, my pizza. And I bet you want a tip.
Old man, we're not from the pizza shop. Oh, we'll give it to you, if you help us on our quest, though.
What? For cold pizza? With splinters in it? Okay, what do you want? Maybe these dirty old stones?
Thank you for the stone. I'm sure we'll find a use for them. Let's go back the way we came, shall we?
And we're back again.
And then we go, so now we're back in the center node, and we can try another path, but now, of course, we have the stones.
The pizza door.
And you can imagine we can then go to the different paths, and then eventually we have to find our way to the oracle in the castle. There we go. All right. And so with designing AR audio, we found some really interesting things for principle. We loved the idea of doing it just in audio so that we couldn't have the crutch of visuals. And we found that the position is really like the power of audio design for games, for AR games. The position in the world, and it isn't just, it's an amazing experience to go from panning left or right, or maybe I jump over the head, to real positional audio. So we're using the resonance plugin where we actually have height as well. And then as you walk through the scene, so as you walk down the path, or you're through the dungeon, or we've got We've got a subway, we've got a forest you walk, and feeling those things come around you, and then if you stop, then they stop. It's quite amazing. And also if you're doing this like walking around the block, it's really interesting too, because you have this sort of narrative. It's almost like a walkable, like a walking, an interactive, audio book. There needs to be a really flexible layout of the real world. So we found that even though we could track steps fairly well, fairly accurately, we really didn't know a lot. There's no cameras on this device to like, can I turn left or am I going to hit a wall or anything like that? So we needed an interaction model that would be very flexible depending on the size of your space. And then using positional cues and stuff like that was a very interesting challenge. And then buttons and interaction was interesting as well, because if we looked at a button, how did we know that it was high-lit? So we created an up sound, a boop sound, and now we want it to be high-lit, but if we had a sound that was constantly going like, okay, I'm glowing, right? In visuals, we don't care about that, that's fine. A visual button can glow. An audio button can't glow though, because if it's going, then it's obscuring all the other audio in the scene. And then when we move out, we have a dupe down sound, ba-doop, we left, but then will people interpret that as leaving the button, or will they interpret that as activating the next button? So there's some really complicated language. So that audio highlight problem, I think we've done a good job so far, but I think there's a lot more room for growth in that. So we've done a lot of audio design in some other products. I wanted to look at, so with audio, there's some basic principles that we looked at. And then the cousin to audio is, of course, haptics. So both of those are very primitive senses. They're below the visual senses. And we did a demo earlier this year for Mariah Sense. And they will be showing this hopefully sometime next year. But what's amazing about this technology is that it is both directional force and texture. So we can feel the difference between like my leather jacket, the zipper, this podium, the felt on this podium, the slippery glass or a matte finish. You can actually feel that with the technology. So for about 4 months, I and my team got the privilege of designing haptic holograms. So imagine 3D chess, but you can actually like stick your hand into it and feel it as you pick up that piece and move it around. It's pretty wild. It's like so 2025, and it's coming. It's really coming. And what we learned from that, I just wanted to leave you with a simple idea, is that who knows what PBR means? Physical-based rendering, right? For graphics, for this sense, for these guys. Well, it turns out there's actually a PBR, if you will, different names for haptics, for touch. And so they're basically when you get into this real, so the difference between like leather and this podium, those have different parameters. It's not reflecting light, it's interacting with your finger and your skin. And those have there are several different parameters. So for this demo, we actually had people like we're molding a door for a rover, and you could feel the door being smooth and the rough edges, and you could feel the sander, and we would smooth off the extra flanges off the rover, and then feel it go smooth. And that's just like, whoa, really, really, really trippy stuff. It's very cool. The last thing I want to talk about quickly for AR games is a set of gestures. So what do we think about gestures? The big thing is that with AR, we definitely don't want to have controllers. So of everything I do, from designing the first iPhone game to doing a lot of one button or simple games, we really in AR it really makes very little sense to hold a controller. With the Bose AR, you'll have an iPhone with you. We're trying to keep the tapping and stuff like that to a minimum. And we've got lots of gestures from various vendors up here. We can track hands now, very lovely, both on HoloLens and on Magic Leap, say. And then you can have a tapping interface input here. But until we've got the fluidity of the thing on the right, which are different mudras, right? So different fluid hand styles, we're really not going to have a really nice gestural language. One thing we found out pretty early is that gestures, like discrete gestures, are going to be like typing in semaphore in a very awkward way, right? If I want to do finger spells like the magicians, right? And then send it off. I don't want to do, that's just not as compelling, right? That's just really not as fun. We want this effortless exploration and novelty. This is something we did for the German Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco, where you could use gestures to fluidly navigate a globe and zoom in on their innovation centers. That that seamless kind of, having, like, doing a little gesture and moving the whole planet was quite lovely. We're doing finger spells for Aladdin's Cave, which is part of the Follow the White Rabbit series, and we've got this demo on Magic Leap if people want to try. This one does still have, the current demo still has more of a gesture, touch and hold thing. We're blending that out into a more fluid style, which I think will be really helpful for, it just feels a lot better for AR. We just can't do, you can do ASL, right? ASL isn't those semaphore, it's the motion that they're doing. And I don't know ASL, so I'm just gesturing around, but hopefully I'm not saying anything horrible with my arms. But that's different. That's different. So there's a really quick run through of white space. So we want to be sure that we give people enough space around their things, so we don't completely cloud them up audio-wise or visually. We want to make sure that the experiences are emotional and fun. Look at the audio design, especially the spatial qualities of the audio. And we found some really, like, for some, we've been having some, fights on Slack a little tussles on Slack. It's like, this sound over here feels a lot more spatial than this other sound over here. And then people are like, no, yes. But I'm really believing that a lot of the texture of the audio piece itself, the different ranges of, not just volume, but the pitch, different pitches and the length of it really help with spatial audio. For example, in a lot of the portals in Unscrambled, the Oracle, we added a chicken flap, sound, which would go, and having that on top of the portal that we were talking about kind of gave us the idea, Fairy Chicken Godmother was on that portal, she was talking, but that flapping noise that was repetitive on top of whatever the noise the door was making really helped a lot to then lock it in spatially for people. We have another one which has got a really fat low, like, I am the kitchen. That's really easy to localize, to find in space, whereas I am the fireplace, it was a lot harder for some people. Now, we haven't done a big study on this. This is our first public demo of Unscrambled, so we will be coming in, I'm sure in a couple months we'll have a lot more data. So that's it. We have maybe a little bit of time for questions. If you want more on UX standards for AR and XR, please feel free to drop me a business card or tweet out to me. I wanted to also thank Wonkibus Wonk here, aka Michael Krabs, who's been, he did the technology for the walking, as well as he has done all the awesome art and voice work. So really, thank you very much for that. Yeah. And the script was done by David Fox, and Patrick O'Shaughnessy did the rest of the programming for the narrative platform that we built this on. So questions?
So with the haptic feedback you're talking about,
Yes.
with the VR, is it a glove that someone's wearing to be able to feel that?
Yeah, it's what I can say right now is it's a wearable. It's a wearable. So it's a wearable. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. It's amazing stuff. But the name of the company is Moriasons. And if you saw them, not at AWE this year, they didn't show this year, but they did show last year. Look them up. They've got some amazing tech.
So do you think audio is actually going to take a lead in some form of driving new game design, or is that just kind of a nice thing to have?
Audio design is the last thing people think about and fund and work on, et cetera. But it's the first thing that really creates emotion. So it's got a much stronger, I interviewed Walter Murch, years ago for a book I was help writing for Business Week, and he said that the eyes blink, but the ears never do. It's got a very strong direct connection with emotional resonance, so it really gets in there. That said, it's a lot easier to see a button than hear a button. So you've got, you kind of have that thing going. Does that answer your question? All right. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole.
Hey, come try our demos.
Yeah, you'll be around after to talk to people?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And it's really cool seeing creative development on the Bose AR platform. That was the second example we got tonight, if you consider Mike's Samurai game. And it being just a brand new set of interactions, we're going to see so much kind of creativity as developers gain their native footing with this, essentially new thing. So it's really cool to see. Next, we have Brandon Biggs, who is co-founder and CEO of Calvin Labs. Do you have a setup that you need to do here? Yeah. Just plug that in. Okay. As you're doing that, please join me in welcoming Brandon.
Can you hear me? Good, good.
Got you.
Up here? Yeah, cool. Hello, everyone. We're a company in Los Angeles. We're called Calvin Labs. My business partner's right over there, Carol Kuhn. Hello, Carol. We basically last year, we formed this company and we kind of wanted to experiment with virtual reality, augmented reality, and the in-between, meaning the spatial tracking. So we are AR, VR game devs. We're building worlds that everyone can play in. Our focus is to make sure that there's a democratization of the spatial tracking of the medium. Right now, we kind of got a problem where in virtual reality, there's no access. You got one guy that has a headset, everyone else has cell phones, so we wanted to address that. Here's a video from our prototype that we did last year. Starting up. So we're fully spatially tracked. It's full 6DoF like virtual reality. We want to take the virtual reality experience, that high-end Unreal Engine kind of feeling you get, and bring it to iOS, mobile. And this is what we showed Apple. This is what we showed Epic, rather. Try to see this. Down here, you fully move around, sort of like paintball. It's a first-person shooter. Again, this is the initial prototype, and then we took this, and once we showed Epic, they gave us an Unreal Dev Grant. From there, we continued to produce the title, and we released on iOS last year, I believe in October. I want to skip ahead so we can get out of that scratchiness. Here's the title as it was released. This is on the iOS store right now. In addition to being able to walk around, you can move around in artificial locomotion, so it's like joystick controls. Okay, so from there, we hit really well. People enjoyed it. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to see if we could take the augmented reality AR kit spatialization and bring it to connect in an environment where if one person has like an Oculus Quest or a Vive or Rift S or anything like that, they're limited. There's a bottleneck. So what we wanted to do is we'll make sure all your friends that have a phone can jump in the world with you and play. And we think this is going to help, kind of advance the cause of the medium. So we do crossplay. And the reason for this is that we have, I might be off here, I think it's like 500 million or 600 million. It's getting really high amount of AR Core, AR Kit supported devices. And that's a big deal. That means that's the amount of people that can feel the spatialized tracking, that can go into that world. And we can, give you a crazy cool experience. So this is our trailer. We're looking at the end of the year. We want this to be something new and unique that people haven't seen before. We have a demo with us today. We'd like anyone who wants to try it, where we have iOS devices connecting to an Oculus Quest. And there we go. So this is on Steam right now. If you have Steam, we'd love you to go on there and wish list this. We're starting to raise the awareness of what we're doing. So we kind of expanded what you saw in the prototype. We have a large battlefield, just very red versus blue kind of design. The blue can come in, orange can come in. You kill giant robots. And, it's first-person shooter. Coming with VR devices, we're cross-platform, VR launch fall. So to go into like the complexities, the difficulties we had to deal with is to make sure things look really good and really nice on mobile devices as well as virtual reality headsets. That includes being on a PC, includes being on a mobile device. We've done that pretty well so far. So if you look at our roadmap, we had the initial prototype launches in Q2 2018. MVP delivery, we hit that at Q4 2018. We had an iOS AR launch. Apple thought it was cool, Epic thought it was cool. And from that, we got Unreal Dev Grant, and we took that and just ran with it. So we're doing an expansion. We have an MVP delivery on the cross-platform at the end of this year, hopefully end of fall. And then next year, we're slated to do the Android port, and because the Android port will come along with the Oculus Quest, which is Android. And then we'll continue to explore as potentially headsets start to emerge and things like that. The other thing we really want to look at is the 5G world. So the thing that's interesting for us is that we're getting ready for that, right? If you have all these augmented reality devices that can exist in the world with virtual reality devices all in one place, that allows you to, with a point cloud-based world where things are, like Google was talking about earlier, when we are able to spatialize and localize on a world stage, we can do some pretty crazy things. So we're already doing that with the Unreal Engine. We're ready to go, and we're kind of seeing this emerging tech come. We think we can do really cool things with it. So that's it for me. My name's Brandon Biggs. If you want to find us on socials, we're Calvin Labs Inc. You can feel free to email me if you want, biggs@calvinlabs.com. I think that's pretty much it for us.
Nice. Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Afterwards, okay, any questions for Brandon before
Anyone
we
have
move on?
questions?
How about right here? Go ahead, sir.
It looks really awesome, the demos. I just one question: how many people have died so far running away from robots falling from buildings or on the street or something?
Sure. Any
major injuries?
No major injuries yet, but you can artificially move around. So it's really taking room scale VR and bringing it to the AR kit world, right? In the long run, we want to do arena scale and things like that, but the cross-platform for like an Oculus Quest and an iOS device, to do the arena scale, we kind of need access to the point cloud data. And right now, we have that access in the iOS world. We can like tie things together and spatialize them locally. But like to do paintball, that type of gameplay, we really need access to Oculus's point cloud data. And then from there, snap it all together, and then all devices can share. So we're looking at that. We hope that comes. Yeah, the question is making it for ARKit devices and VR devices, is that a handicap? I said could be, but I would argue you design for that in mind. If you simplify the gameplay and you make sure it's fun for all, there's something to it about being in a VR headset and having people join. Like we just did 2-bit beta night. And the thing that really worked out well is that we had all these people in VR over here, and then we had this giant line. And then everyone who's in the line is hopping in on their iPhone devices, and they're participating while they wait. And there was something amazing about that people had patience in a way that when I've done a lot of like LBVR kind of stuff, the patience isn't there. So fair point, I think you designed for it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name's Siciliana Trevino, and I'm the executive producer and developer at Quirkeley. I'm an independent filmmaker. And we're here to talk about our new game, War of the Worlds, with our team who made it as part of the Bose AR Game Jam. We have Sasha over here, who did all of the lovely and amazing art for the game. And Katie Gutierrez, who did all of the voice talent and the music. Yeah, a round of applause for the team. And just to circle back, actually Mike has an article from last year, 762 million AR-compatible smartphones in the wild. My background is in film, and then I got into VR at about 2015 with my first DK2 experience. And quickly was enamored with VR, and then really fascinated by the accessibility of augmented reality Everyone, has their phones. It's accessible. There's very little friction. I just want to get a sense of who's in the room and who here has published an app to the Google Play Store. And who here has published an app to iOS? Lots of iOS developers. And who is never made an AR app and interested in AR and AR gaming? Okay, cool. So, and then everybody else is marketing. Okay. Web, okay. So getting into developing for AR and games is really new for me. I like telling stories. What compelled me to participate in the Bose AR Game Jam was the opportunity to tell a story, just through voice and not through vision. And so creating space with sound was something I was really fascinated by. And how do we, really follow let's see the trajectory of, heads up and hands free, so that it makes it safer. Just some key mobile app stats. Apps are expected to generate 189 billion in revenue by 2020. The App Store has 2.2 million apps available for download. So as annoying as apps can be, and as many as we have on our phone and as few as we actually use on a regular basis, apps aren't going anywhere. The income and the generation of numbers the revenue is going to just increase. With what I've seen is that the Google Play Store, there's a lot more downloads and purchases from there. However, on the Apple side, while it's not growing as quickly, the audiences are very different. People on the iOS platform are going to be okay with buying apps. They're not, the majority of people want free apps, and you can create experiences that are going to sell digital products, and that's how you can make revenue. But on the Apple side, people are a little bit more comfortable with buying those apps. So as you're building out and thinking about which platform you want to reach first, and if you're doing something within augmented or virtual reality, you're going to be probably working with Unity, and then an Android build and an iOS build, and those all are very have intricate ins and outs that we learned about. And another thing too is that it can be really tricky when you're trying to develop on a new platform, because there's constant upgrades that create bugs. So that was just something that we found out. And this is a little bit more about specifically ARKit and AR Core. The stuff is just brand new, and you're charting a new way of using things, and I really admire the fact that Nicole Lazzaro is here with all of her richness of experience, and I highly encourage you to go and follow her and look at her work and see how she's really helping us understand things like gesture inputs and motivation and what makes things fun and engaging for people to really get involved in. Now, we've heard a lot about Bose AR this evening, and it's really humbling to get your hands on this kind of technology when you have all these ideas of what you want to do, and then you can be limited by the time and the resources that you have. What's exciting again is that think fast. You've got the IMU chip right here on the inside of the glasses, and it has a connection here that you connect and you charge up. And so when you turn on your phone with this, I call the glasses the phone now, because I just talk on my phone through my glasses. There's a little button here that turns it on, and your assistant comes on and tells you that you have 100% on your battery. So actually just having the voice in your head tell you these things is very comforting and relaxing, I find. And being from Berkeley, I enjoy walking around wearing my glasses and talking on the phone, and people have no idea that I'm because they can't hear anyone and they don't see anything in my ears. So in deciding what to do with the glasses, I looked at the design guide for Bose, and they had sort of 7 key features around location development and tours. Radio was really big, and as soon as I saw radio, I thought War of the Worlds. It's a really rich story that allows you to kind of think about different ways to experience space, and we like the idea of doing science fiction sound. So it just was a wonderful way to celebrate the best of like the most basic, simple technology like radio, which has been around for so long, and then marrying it to something that's very science fiction, right? Like having these glasses that eventually will have a visual component to them. And so our game is, it's a 3-chapter, it's a podcast and 3-chapter action adventure game in one. It features Katie's podcast. We have ASMR elements, and Shia LaBeouf is in it, thankfully. And we're really celebrating the memes, science fiction, and audio AR. So I'll give it over to Sasha.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about my inspiration, the mood board for the art. So actually it's coming from the 20s to like an art style. It was like an art deco, which contains like a very bright colors and very solid. And you can see on the, like my inspiration board, just like people try to solve a very simple shape, but very like a huge and bright. In the next slide, you can see like the old posters toward the worlds where you can using like a different shape, a tripod. Some of them look like a walking coffee machines, like. But I was just trying to create like a more organic shapes to make more people fair. When you looking like a giant shape is walking over the city. So the city, of course, I decided to make us San Francisco. So the next slide, you can see the screenshot, some of the screenshot of the game. So in the middle is like a tobacco screen when you're gonna see when we launch the game, and the next one when we launch a Katie podcast, you can see the radio, and of course in the background you can see the famous sign, one of the San Francisco. And when it's game over, it look like the tripod find you and he tried to catch you, but you're gonna hear all the experience. You're gonna hear from the sound from the sound on your devices. And the next one, the Katie gonna talk about the audio experience.
Yay, so I got to do the fun space sound effects, and we worked a little bit with live recordings as well as synth sounds to create some really unique effects. We also incorporated music from real musicians around the Bay Area. We got permission to do so that was really exciting, and we have a real podcast that we've released. Yeah, we can actually play a few clips for you right now. So this is kind of the atmosphere of the tripods walking. It's a mixture of a synth sound and actual like machinery and robotic arms. That's just a spooky, like, spacey sound, and we weren't sure where this was going to go in, and it became the signature scary sound of the death rays gearing up to shoot at you, so that you know to watch out. Some sci-fi ambiance.
One of the tracks is coated with a virus that could take out the Martian tripod forces. You must choose which music to transmit to Mars by double tapping your device while facing the turntable of your choice. Do you copy? Nod yes to confirm.
That was the latte goddess telling you what your quest is going to be. You get to actually look at the sound, and when you hear it loudest, you can double tap on your device to select it.
You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it!
I don't know if you recognize Shia LaBeouf there. That's the Game Over lecture. Don't get that one. We have just a few, we can play a few seconds of music. just a quick preview of the full podcast.
And then in the middle of the podcast, an alert comes on. Do we have the sample video that we can run through? So we just have actually like a 3-minute sort of audio of the gameplay.
Welcome to the Bempire, your source of fresh, local electronic music. I'm your host, DJ Buffon. It's a foggy day in the city here, and that's got me in the mood to play new music for you.
You've been selected to receive exclusive perks for Bose AR-enabled devices. To accept, double tap on the right side of your device. Danger! Martian tripod forces are invading Earth. The biohacked super predators have taken civilian prisoners, and you are their only hope for freedom. To release the prisoners, you have a fleet of speeders that will take you to the tripod holding them captive. When you hear this sound, the tripod is preparing to fire its death ray, and you will need to jump to a speeder next to you to survive. I will help guide you on when you should jump left or right. Upon reaching the prisoners, activate the onboard electromagnetic pulse by double tapping the right side of your device. The EMP will disable the tripod security system and destroy the invader after we've released the prisoners. Do you copy? Nod yes to confirm. Perk up. Earn a free latte for each tripod you destroy. It's a latte or death situation. The tripods are here to clone our memes, which they need to survive. That's right, our memes. There are 3 turntables before you. Each one is playing a unique track that will get louder as you move closer to it. One of the tracks is coated with a virus that can take out the Martian tripod forces. Stand in front of the turntable that is playing the song you want to select. Transmit the track on our open channel by double tapping the right side of your device. If you choose wrong, you may be put into an everlasting sleep. If you make the correct choice, you will be promoted to Major Foam with extra foam. And you just might save the world.
You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, and you're not gonna stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it!
So with the component of the virtual latte, what we would like to do going forward is once the game is released, potentially partner with different coffee distributors or different vendors where we could actually offer real world benefits around some of the gameplay. And also we have more podcasts coming up. Katie is already working on the next round with some new music. So Audio AR really gave us an opportunity to showcase local talent, podcast, integrate gaming and rewards. And it's really accessible in the sense that you don't have to rely on your eyes to have fun or to do any of this engagement. And these devices are so much more affordable than your regular sort of high-end augmented reality headsets and VR devices. These are running at $199. So just if you enjoy outdoor activities, they're perfect for that as well, because then you don't have to have like being cut off from the senses of the real world around you. So we're really lucky to be in San Francisco and having a front row seat to all of these new technologies coming out. And of course, looking at what Google is doing with maps, that's really going to be an exciting component to integrate into audio AR. And so we're looking forward to seeing how we can use that also to do things like scavenger hunts and so on. So did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add? No, okay, that's it, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That's awesome. Really, looks like really fun game mechanics. The War of the Worlds theme just makes a lot of sense because of its radio origins, and yet another audio AR example. I think that if on-night demos are a leading indicator for directionally where AR is going, you know, we can expect a lot of fun things to come with audio AR. So thank you guys. That was awesome. And thanks for coming tonight, and join me in thanking all of our speakers.